Hey, what's going on, guys? Mike44 here, and today we're going to be doing 10 dark conspiracy theories that actually turned out to be true. Still like that. Okay. Throughout history, the world, particularly the United States, has seen its fair share of conspiracy theories come and go. From reptilians disguised as humans to chemtrails, it's fair to say that most of these theories are entirely absurd. From time to time, though, a conspiracy theory that many thought to be ridiculous is shown in fact to be correct. In such cases, the truth can prove to be much more terrifying than fiction. The following 10 are examples of such real-life conspiracies. Number 10. Project Sunshine. Despite its cheery name, Project Sunshine was by far one of the darkest conspiracies ever conceived, and the most horrifying to be proven real. The project was commissioned by the U.S. Atomic Energy Committee and the U.S. Air Force. Designed to investigate the effects of nuclear radiation on humans and the environment, Project Sunshine saw the U.S. government harvest and use, often without the permission of parents, the body parts of dead children and babies. Younger children typically have higher amounts of strontium in their bones, meaning that their tissues are more susceptible to radiation damage. Thus, they made better test subjects for the project. Yeah. And a lot of people love the U.S. Number 9. Project Multra. Multra is one of the better-known conspiracies. The general premise, now proven to be true, was that the U.S. government was testing psychedelics and hallucinogenic drugs on unsuspecting American citizens and military personnel in order to investigate the viability of behavior modification programs. Essentially, the U.S. government was testing mind control techniques on its own populace and left many of its participants with trauma and even brain damage. There are plenty of Multra suspects acting violently or dangerously, and the fact that the U.S. government was so willingly to endanger the lives of its own citizens without their consent is perhaps the most chilling part of the whole conspiracy. Yeah. And many people still love this country. It's crazy, you know? Number 8. The U.S. government's alcohol poisoning. This conspiracy doesn't have a particular name, but it's one that has been the subject of much discussion over the years, particularly recently. That's not recently. Prohibition was like over almost 100 years ago. During Prohibition, the U.S. government tainted industrial alcohol with methanol, a commonly used antifreeze, in an attempt to curb the drinking of it. Reports differ on just how much methanol was added, though most agree that it wasn't enough to be lethal and was intended more as a deterrent than punishment. On the other hand, it has also been reported that there were around 10,000 deaths during this period as a result of the poisoning, so perhaps the intention was darker than we think. Number 7. U.S. government spying. Oh god. Donald Trump's spying on us now. In June 2013, intelligence contractor Edward Snowden released thousands of top-secret documents to various journalists which detailed the sophisticated intelligence network the U.S., in conjunction with several other Western countries, had been using to spy on civilian populations around the world. Much of this spying was done through social networking companies. For instance, in 2016, U.S. government agencies sent approximately 50,000 requests for user data to Facebook, roughly 28,000 to Google, and about 9,000 to Apple. Perhaps the most disturbing part of this story is how the National Security Agency conducted multiple espionage operations on U.S. allied governments, such as Germany, Belgium, France, and Spain. Creepy stuff, right? Yeah. Yep. Number 6. Gulf of Tonkin incident. On August 12, 1964, in the midst of the Vietnam War, the USS Maddox, on an intelligence mission along North Vietnam's coast, allegedly fired upon and damaged several North Vietnamese torpedo boats that had been stalking in the Gulf of Tonkin. The Maddox was also reportedly attacked by North Vietnamese vessels on August 4th. In 2005, an undated NSA publication was declassified, revealing that there was no attack on the Maddox on August 4th. Why would that be classified anyway? Since the NSA's disclosure, many have accused the U.S. government of intentionally faking the incident to increase support for the U.S. war in Vietnam and to justify further military action in the region. In fact, on August 10th, the U.S. Congress passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, a bill that authorized President Johnson to do whatever was necessary to assist any member or protocol state of the Southeast Asia Collective Defense Treaty. Okay, so the Vietnam War happened in the 60s. President Andrew Johnson was president in the 1800s, in the 1860s. So, I don't really get it. How does that make any sense? Oh, Lyndon B. Johnson, there we go. I got it now. There was another Johnson as president. I got so confused. This technique was also seen in the early 2000s when the government administrations of President Bush in the U.S. and Prime Minister Tony Blair of the UK asserted that the Iraqi government was actively constructing and stockpiling weapons of mass destruction, prompting the Iraq War. Later U.S.-led inspections found that Iraq had in fact not been stockpiling or producing weapons of mass destruction to begin with. Number 5. The First Lady who ran the country. In October 1919, President Woodrow Wilson suffered a stroke that rendered him incapable of governing. Some of us probably know that part. I don't. What you might not know, however, is that after his stroke, his wife, First Lady Edith Wilson, decided what matters were important enough to bring Woodrow's attention, essentially giving her the unofficial role of president until Warren Harding took over in 1921. Because Woodrow Wilson never technically resigned, the vice president at the time, Thomas Marshall, could not take over, and Wilson instead decided to allow his wife to govern for some time. Perhaps the scariest thing about this whole story is that the U.S. government didn't inform the public of this. The people only learned of Wilson's stroke in February 1920, and even then the full details weren't known. It's events like those that are the framework of the relatively modern and widely believed deep state conspiracy theory, which posits that there is an unknown party in the government, independent of changing administrations, that makes most of the decisions. No, Donald Trump and the Congress make the decision. The U.S. government, number 4, the U.S. government's weather manipulation. In 1993, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, the U.S. military and University of Alaska, created the High-Frequency Active Aerial Research Program, otherwise known as HARP. Since then, numerous conspiracy theories have sprung up surrounding the mysterious project. Everything from satellites that can cause earthquakes to huge transmitters that can create tornadoes and tsunamis. However, what most people don't know is that there actually was a documented weather manipulation project during the Vietnam War, decades before the creation of HARP. Number 3, the Canadian fruit machine. Despite being one of the strongest proponents of the LGBT community today, Canada's history isn't as clean as one would think. In the 1960s, the Canadian government hired a university professor to create a gaydar, what it called the fruit machine at the time. University professor Frank Robert Wake of Charlton University went about this by forcing subjects to look at same-sex erotic imagery while he measured pupil dilation, perspiration levels, and changes to pulse to gauge just how fruity they were. The program was part of a long-term effort to remove homosexuals from positions of civil service. Number 2, the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama is the designated spiritual leader of the Tibetan people. Those carrying the title are generally seen as embodying the tenets of Buddhism: inner peace, enlightenment, and Fight sure to slow down. However, CIA documents published by the State Department in 1998 indicated otherwise. For much of the 1960s and some of the 1970s, the current Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso, along with many other prominent typed-in figures, were funneled millions of dollars by the CIA. This funding was part of a concerted effort by U.S. intelligence to undermine Communist China and global communist presence by propping up typed-in guerrillas in their fight against the communist state. According to the report, the CIA funded approximately 2,100 typed-in guerrillas with $500,000 annually and gave the Dalai Lama himself an annual $180,000 subsidy. And number 1, Operation Mockingbird. Operation Mockingbird was a 1950s program in which the CIA recruited, and propped up various media organizations to influence public opinion. In April 1967, the Church Committee, a U.S. Senate task force, conducted an investigation into the CIA's influence over both foreign and national news organizations and stated that the CIA maintained a huge global network that provided intel for the organization and at times attempted to influence opinion through the use of covert propaganda. The damning report also stated that these same individuals gave the CIA direct access to a large number of newspapers and periodicals, scores of press services and news agencies, radio and television stations, commercial book publishers, and other foreign media outlets, and claimed that approximately 50 of the CIA's assets were individual American journalists or employees of U.S. media organizations. So, dark conspiracy theories that actually turned out to be true.